Hello there, it's Jan from JB Crafts. Welcome back to my channel. I have another little construction project for you today, a little gift box which I really enjoy making these. They're a nice style rather than just your normal, sort of top lid and bottom box. So this one's a little milk carton style, very, very cute, and I've decorated it with some papers from an old paper pad, which I'll show you in a second. But this measures 2 3/4 inches square on the actual front, and the whole box is about 5 inches tall when it's finished. So yeah, 2 3/4 on all the measurements, and then I've just chosen some mats and layers to go on there, which has got some real nice foiled accents on there, and a little complimentary one on the top from the same paper pad. And I'm going to show you how to pop this together. Really simple, just some scoring and folding, and then simple mats and layers. I've popped a little tiny window in the front. Not necessary. If you don't wish, you can pop them all with a full mat and pop you maybe a bigger greeting, but I just wanted a little window so that you've got a hint as to what's inside. And then it is just fastened together with some ribbon at the top, and it all opens up, and it's got quite a decent size inside there, obviously, to pop either some sweeties or a gift in there. And then I've just popped my ribbon in and tied a bow in there just for the closure. So I'm going to show you how I've made it. I'll just pop that little bow back together if we can. Pop that on there. I'm just going to hold that with my tweezers for a second, and then just retie my bow at the top there, just so that we've got that back together and we can refer back to that one if we need to. So I'm just going to pull those tails through, tighten the bow, and we're good to go. So I'm happy with that, like so. Take that one away, and those do the trick. So yeah, just pick some brown ribbon to echo the matte layers that I've chosen, which is a metallic, pearlescent metallic Centura pearl, and I'll show you all that as we go along. So let me show you how I made it. So for this particular size, I started off with a piece of cardstock that measures 11.5 by 8 1/4. Now you can adjust these sizes. When you see how this goes together, you can make this any size. For example, if you wanted to have this 2 inches square and have a smaller box, absolutely fine. I just did this the largest I could get it out of my A4 sheet here in the UK. So I've just cut a sliver. And I mean a sliver. Let me just see if I can find the bit that I cut off. Yeah, it really is just a little tiny piece off this side here to make it 11.5 inches. It's a ridiculous size. And then 8 1/4 is the width of our cardstock here in the UK. So let me get into a little bit of scoring. The first thing I'm going to do is bring in my larger scoreboard, because I've got that width of cardstock here today. I'm going to take my scoring tool, and we're going to put a series of score lines. This is going to be top to bottom, and this is going to fold round to make the 4 sides of the box. So each side measures 2 3/4 inches. So I'm just starting from this left hand side, making sure that it's nice and straight, and the first score line is going to be at 2 3/4, top to bottom. And I tend to do this a couple of times, sort of gently. And then we're going to add the 2 3/4 inches, which gives us 5.5. So that's going to be my second score line. And again, just a couple of gentle score lines. And then we're going to add another 2 3/4, which is 8 1/4. So I'm going to go from 6, 7, 8 1/4 there. That's made my third panel. And then the last one is going to be at 11. And that should leave you a little 1/2 inch glue tab to fasten it all together with here. So then I'm going to rotate so that that little skinny 1/2 inch piece is at the bottom. And again, pop that long side against the left hand side of my scoreboard there. And we're going to do the 2 3/4 inches again, which is going to be the base of the box. So these 4 panels are going to close to make the base. Then I want another 2 3/4 inches to make the fronts and the sides of the box. So that took me to 5.5 there. And then I've just divided this top section into a couple of odd sized portions. I didn't want to do it in half, so I've gone to 7 1/4, which is here, and that leaves me a little inch one at the top. So you can see here we've got that 2 3/4 inches, then we've got the next piece here, and then we've got that thinner piece to make the top of the box there. And then just before I pop my scoreboard away, I'm going to pop it back on that long side, and I want to add 2 additional partial score lines. So I have my little skinny 1/2 inch on this right hand side again now. And across the top here, we're going to work in the second rectangle. So not the first one here, the second one. And I'm going to go at 4 1/8 and just score down to that first score line here. So what I've done is I've worked out the halfway mark between the 2 3/4 and the 5 1/2, and literally just put that score line in. If you struggle a little bit with getting that in the right place, just pop your ruler against that score line and just score down to it. And then I want to miss one, and we're going to come in that 4th rectangle at the top. So I've not done the first one, done the second one, missed the 3rd one, and again in that 4th one. So again, if we line up my ruler on that score line, and this one is going to be at 9 5/8. So I've got 6 7 8 9 5/8, which is the halfway mark again between these 2 vertical score lines. So that's all I want to do in there, and that's all our scoring finished. Okay, fairly straightforward. So we'll get rid of the board there and the score tool, and then I'm going to bring in my burnishing tool, and we're going to burnish all those lines in place. So I'm going to start with a little skinny bit at the end. I always find it easier to do those little skinny bits with the weight of the rest of the card. Give them a good press, and then we'll burnish them all in at the end. It's worth making sure at this point that as you fold these over, everything's running nice and flush at the edges. You don't want the cardstock running out at any point, because it's going to affect how your box goes together in the long run. Yeah, so just make sure when you're folding that all these pieces fold nicely and you've got a nice flush edge, and then we'll give those a burnish in place with that tool just to secure those pieces. And then I'm going to go along the long side, and I'm bringing the bottom one in, and again just making sure that it all folds nice and flush to get that accuracy when we come to put the box together. And then I'm going to do the same with the other score line, and then that very final score line where we added the extra vertical ones in. I'm not going to do anything with the vertical lines yet, but I'm actually going to bring that one back on itself. So all my other score lines have been mountain folds, but this one, so I've got a mountain, and then that top one, because this bit folds back on itself, I've brought this back as a little valley fold here. And then we need to do a little bit of cutting in there to actually bring it all together. So I'm going to grab my scissors here, and the first thing I'm going to do is take away this little skinny rectangle here at the bottom, and then I'm also going to cut away the first and second ones at the top. So that right hand side piece, I just want to keep this middle section here. So I am going to cut away the score line here, right up from the bottom, up to where that line crosses, and I'm going to take that piece away, and then I'm going to do the same at the top. So I've cut the score line away here, nice and straight as you can, and then cut those 2 little pieces out. So it just leaves you with that tab on one side. Okay, and then I will just snip that to make it easier. When I'm doing a glue tab, I always just take the corners off, and you can do that in one movement. If you're aware of how you're cutting it, you can snip these pieces out and do the angle at the same time. And then with that smaller piece still at the top, I want to free up these 4 pieces here as well. So when this goes together, it's going to look like so. So I like to have my join at the back. So piece number, from this right hand side, piece number 2 is going to be my front, and I tend to just pop a little note on there so that I know I'm going to cover all this up, so it doesn't worry me that I'm popping pencil on there. But what I want to do is leave a nice square on that front panel for the base. So I am going to cut away again the score line here. So I'm cutting to the left of the score line, right up to where that horizontal line crosses it there. And on this side, I'm going to cut to the right of the score line. Again, nice straight edge. The long scissors work great for this, up to that horizontal line. So we've got a nice square piece here. I'm going to do the same on this end one. Okay, so I'm going to take to the left hand side of the score line and create myself a nice square piece on the back. And then the 2 that are left, so the first piece, this has still got the score lines attached to it, so I'm just going to take a slight wedge off either side and basically cut away any of that score line that's left, and this will hide then when we fold all the base together. Miss the second one, which is our front, and then I'm going to go to the third one, and again you can just see those score lines where I've cut it away, so I'm just going to take a little wedge off that side and a little wedge off this side, just to tidy it all up and make sure there's nothing sticking out when we come to pop the base together. Okay, so it should look like so. So we created our glue tab by cutting away those end pieces, and we've actually folded and burnished and cut away here. So I've got a square panel on my front and a square panel on my back, and then I've got my tabs that are going to fit inside. So this essentially now will go together like this, and then my front one I always leave well last, so I'm going to bring back, side, side, and then you've got a nice square one to finish off with, so that everything looks nice and neat on the bottom. So it will go together like this in due course. Now, if you've watched any of my construction videos before, you'll know that I prefer to decorate them while it's still flat. So as far as product is concerned, I brought out one of my old paper pads again. This is an old Crafter's Companion paper pad, a long time ago. It was a Sarah Signature collection. It was called Rose Gold. Some of you may have it in your collection from a few years ago, but I just thought it was a perfect complement for this nice shade of blush pink cardstock that I'd chosen for the box. And again, it's got some lovely designs in here with lots of foiling on. You can just see the different designs. Really lent itself. It was a perfect match for that that pink cardstock. And then what I did, because there was an element of brown in here as well, I just had a rummage through my drawer and brought out some pearlescent, or metallic pearlescent. This is Centura Pearl Card from Crafter's Companion, and it's almost like I don't know, like a bronzy, coppery, minky colour. And I just thought that picked out the brown really nicely. I'm going to use this paper today, and you can just see how that sort of lends itself to picking out the brown. It's got a little bit of glitter in here. So those are the 2 papers that I've used. Now, you don't have to create mats and layers for this. You can just do it in one go. I chose to mat and layer mine. You can see on here I've just got a very tiny skinny little border in the Centura Pearl, and this was the stripe paper and the pattern just to complement each other from that same paper pad. Now, you can just go with a layer of design paper if you wish, and all you'll need to do for that is take the larger of the measurements that I'm going to give you. If you don't want to do the mat and layer, it's entirely up to you. So what I did was create my mats and layers, and I've brought in the measurements for you so that you can see where I've headed. So I've actually got several different ones. I'll bring all these in and show you what I've done. Excuse me. Oh, I could feel that one coming. So I've created squares for the 4 panels across the front. And these are a mat layer that measures 2 5/8 of an inch square. So it is literally an 1/8 of an inch smaller than the 2 3/4 inch panel that we're going to work on. And then the pattern paper is 2.5 inches square. So there's only that 1/8 of an inch border, which just gives that little skinny border. And you're going to need 4 of these to cover the panels at the front here, like so. So we'll pop those to one side. And then I have got the smaller pieces, which are going to do the front and the back on the piece that's angled. And these are the same width. They're all the same width. So my mat layer measures 2 5/8, and it is 1 5/8 deep, with a patterned layer that is 2.5 by 1.5. So what I was saying at the beginning was that if you don't want to include the mat layers, you can just cut your pattern paper at the larger measurement and just pop that straight onto your card. Works absolutely fine. And then I've got some little skinny pieces which are going to do these top sections here, like so. And these are the same width again. So the mat is 2 5/8 by 7/8, and the pattern paper layer is 2.5 by 3/4. So you're going to need 4 of the squares for the middle. You're going to need 2 of the rectangular pieces for the top here, and 2 of those skinny rectangles to go right at the top here. So I'll just leave those measurements there for a second. And I've alternated my papers mainly because there wasn't enough in one sheet of the pattern paper to do all the layers. So I thought it would look nice with a complementary piece from the same paper pad, because you're fairly secure in the fact that if you're working with a paper pad, they all mix and match together anyway. And I've just done that little bit of a contrast. So we just need to do an extra piece of die cutting, because my 4th panel is going to have this little window cut into it. Now I've already done the panel ready. I just need to cut my front here. So I've actually got my 4th panel, which is the same size as the ones I've got here. And all I've done is taken one of my little circle dies and I've cut a circle out of the front. So my smallest circle is, let's just have a look. These are from my sort of infinity dies here. I've just got a couple of them. The smallest one is approximately just under 1.5 inches, about 1 3/8 of an inch, and I've cut that straight through. I put my pattern paper on, let it dry, and I've cut that straight through the 2 layers. My Gemini will go through those 2 layers quite simple. So now what we need to do is do the same through the front of the box as well. So where I've marked my front panel, I'm going to line up my piece here, and it's just got the tiniest of pink borders around it. And I'm going to take my pencil and just draw around the inside, the inside of that circle, trying not to draw all over the panel, Jan. Just erase that bit there. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up here. I've got a little bit of tape handy, and I am just going to gauge where I want this to go. Pop it in place with some tape, and I'm putting the tape mainly on the inside piece that we're going to cut out. And then I've got my large plates here because I want to keep the box flat. I've got my large plates for my die cutting sandwich, and yes, I am still using my original purple plate. This is what I got with my Gemini years and years ago, and look at it. It is still as straight as a die. I love it. And I tend to use this one for my non-cutting plate. It's got lots of love on it. You can see there's lots of bits of blemishes on it, but it is still nice and straight. And I'm just going to pass that straight through my die cutting machine, which just lives behind me. You can hear that there going in the background. And that's going to cut that little aperture straight out of the centre of that front panel. So if we bring those back now and remove my plates there and the cutting plate, and then we should be able to just remove that one straight out of the back there. So we've got a spare piece. I'll show you what I've done with this towards the end of the video. And we've got our little aperture in the front here. So this was the piece that I was going to work with, and this is going to go over the top here. And don't worry if it's not quite lined up. I'm going to show you how to address that. But just before I stick this together, I've actually got a little bit of acetate in here. So you could use, you know, a patterned acetate, you could use a piece of vellum, whatever. It could be a different piece of paper, however you want to do it. I just chose a little bit of acetate to go in the back there. And I've cut that slightly smaller than my panel here. So it's probably about the same size as the patterned layer, which was 2.5 inches square, maybe just a little bit smaller. And what I want to do is stick that on the back of here before I adhere it, so that the acetate is trapped between the patterned layer and the box front. So I'll remove the liner from that red line tape, and I always find that with acetate this is probably the best adhesive to use. Tend not to use wet glue for the acetate, and I've just popped some all the way around the edge of it there, and then we're going to pop this behind our little panel here. So I'm just going to pop that in the center so that it's covering that window that we created, and then take my burnishing tool there and just give it a good press down. You'll see the tape change colour there, so that you've got no air bubbles in it and you've got a good adhesion between the two panels. And then we're going to pop this one on the front here. Now my paper's not directional particularly, it's got little leaves going in all directions, so I don't think it really matters which way up it goes. But if you have got a directional paper, just be aware that the one that we folded back was the top part, so if it's directional it wants to be facing up this way. So I'm just going to get rid of all the little bits there, and then I am going to go back to my tape runner here, and we're going to add some adhesive onto the back of here, and this is strong enough to go over the acetate as well now. And then I'm going to line that up the best I can and pop that over the top, and I'm going to concentrate, rather than lining the circle up in the middle, I'm going to concentrate on the outside of the square, and it is the tiniest of borders all the way around. And if it doesn't quite line up, as I say, I'm going to give you a little trick. Mine doesn't look too bad there, it's pretty accurate. I've just got a little tiny bit of white, but it's now trapped that acetate between the two layers. So give that a good press into place, and then I'm going to add the others on as well. So I'm going to pop the other pieces that we made. So again, use that tape runner, and we'll just pop these on all 4 of those central panels. So the box was 2 3/4 square, and we've got those panels to go on each side. So same again for the end. Whoops. You can use your wet glue for this, you could use your double-sided adhesive, whatever your preference is. It doesn't really matter, as long as these are glued down nicely in place. And get them as square as you can along those front panels. If it helps, you can fold the box so that you're just working in one area, if that helps to align them better. Like so. That's the last one there for the square. So these are the sides of the box, the front, back and sides here. And then on the front we want to add our extra 2 pieces. So I'm going to take one of the wider rectangles, and I'm going to pop that in that panel above my front piece, like so. And again, it's got that same border, so you can line it up so that it's running parallel with the square underneath there. And then I'm going to take one of the little skinny pieces to go right in the top there, and that one's going to fit nicely on there. So you can see they all run nicely together. And then I'm going to skip this one, and we're going to go for that back panel. So you remember when I said we pop this together, we've got a front piece and the back piece. So we want that very first section here, and we're going to do the same with these 2 panels. Okay, so I've got one to go in just there. And then the 2 panels that are left should be the ones that we pop those extra little vertical score lines in. So that one's going to go on the top like so. And that's all my matting and layering done. So we can now pop our little box together and get the construction underway. So I am going to pop round to some wet glue just for this side panel. I do prefer to put the whole box together with a little bit of wet glue. So it just gives me time to manoeuvre. So the glue tab that we made right at the end, I am going to cover with my quick grab acrylic glue. Now a lot of people ask me about the acrylic glue. I tend to call it acrylic glue, and it is actually a PVA. I'll just come back to that in a second. All I've done is folded over one panel with the tab, and then I'm going to fold this panel in, and it should all line up fairly evenly. Okay, and then just double check it the other way. You want to make sure that the whole thing folds flat. Yeah, just coming back to the acrylic glue, it is actually a PVA, which is a water-based glue, but it's a quick grab one. And I did mention in a previous video, I use different types. I don't stick with one particular glue. Some of it is Collal Tacky glue, some of it's high tack, some of it's Cosmic Shimmer. It depends what's on offer when I go to buy it. And I usually buy it a couple of bottles at a time in the larger bottles, and then just decant it into my little fine tip applicator. So yeah, water-based PVA glue. It is acrylic. It tends to be called acrylic glue, and it's a quick grab one, this one, which is what I like when I'm working with something like this. You can see that we've got that stuck in place now, and we've got our box starting to come together. So the next bit I'm going to do is the base, and I am going to revert to my all-purpose glue this time, just because this dries so strong. It's very rigid when it's dry, so for the base of the box it's going to add extra strength if you're wanting to pop something like a little candle gift in here, or something that has a bit more weight to it. Yes, I could have used this for the side, absolutely. I just tend to flit about with my glues. So I'll bring the front one, the one that we left square, out of the way, and I tend to bring the back one in first so that you've not got the side showing underneath. And then I'm going to pop glue all over one of those side pieces and bring that one in, and then I'm going to do the same on this side. And these are the 2 pieces that we just chopped away the score lines. You can see that they tuck inside nicely, and then this one is going to come right over the top and seal the whole thing. So again, nice layer of glue around that finishing piece. Being a little bit more careful with that one because I don't want it all to squidge out. And that one's going to just fit nicely to create that nice square base. And then I tend to go in with one of my longer bone folders there and just spread out all that glue inside. But you've got that nice square panel that we left on the back inside the box, which gives a really nice finish on the inside as well as the outside. So the last bit we need to do there is where we popped these panels in. So all I'm going to do now is just squeeze together where those little vertical score lines were, and it will create that V shape in the sides there. And then I just want to press all this together so you can see it all lines up with that top panel now. Just give it a squeeze where those 2 pieces of card have bent. And then you've got these nice lines in the side to create that milk carton top. Okay, you can add extra score lines in here if you wish. You can do that with a scoring tool when you've taken it out of the scoreboard, but I find that they just fold in quite nicely like so. And then what I want to do now is actually pop a couple of holes in here. So I'm just going to use my ruler across the front here. We'll just do it on this first one to start off with. And I'm just going to look roughly where the centre is. So I'm going to go for there. And then I'm going to pop about halfway up. I'm going to go at 1 inch and 2 inches there, just to give me a guide. And then I have got my crocodile at the ready, which will go through all these layers. And I'm just going to use the smallest one of the holes here. But I'm actually going to do it all together so that the holes end up in exactly the same place. So make sure that everything's nice and straight and that your top edges run straight. And then I'm aiming for the middle of this depth. I've got my line here. I want to go a little bit further down where the middle is. And I'm going to go through those layers and punch a hole all the way through the middle. You can see it handled that really well. Keep them nice together, keep it all lined up, and we're going to do the same on the other mark here. So I'm going to line it up with the mark, she says, there we go, and I'm just going to take it level with the one that I've already made and punch that through both layers. There we go. So we've now got those in place. And I can pop my ribbon through. So I've got a little bit of ribbon here. And this is just from my stash. I've just chosen the brown just to complement my colours. And again, I just need to pop that through from the back there. And if it doesn't want to go through, you can always use something to encourage it through the hole there. And then I'm going to go through this side. And I'm going through all the layers here, pop it through, and just pull that through evenly here. And then we're going to tie that and secure our little box here. So we've got that front bit. And I tend to use my tweezers, which I seem to have momentarily misplaced. There they are, my inverted tweezers. I tend to just put it on here to help hold the ribbon in place, and then I can tie my bow here and then just adjust it as necessary. I don't want the bow pieces to be too big. Adjust it as necessary, tighten it up, and then once we're happy with that, we can snip off those extra pieces there. So I'm just going to take a little bit off each side just to tidy those ends up and give them a little slant there. So that's that bit done. And then the rest of it is simply decoration. So I said, don't worry if you've got this bit slightly off. You can just see here, there's a little tiny bit of the blush base card showing. What I've done with that is I've taken the next die up in my circle. So this is the one that we cut the circle aperture, and then I've taken the next one up and I've used that same pearlescent cardstock that we dressed the mats with, and I've cut a little frame here just using those two dies. And this allows you then to cover up any imperfections that you may have on that edge. So I can just get that in place nicely. And I'm going to go to that quick grab glue again for this one and just put some little dots all the way around the edge of here. If you have double-sided adhesive, you can pop that on the back before you cut. And then I'm just going to position this so that it hides any of those little imperfections there. And I am going to pop some embellishments on anyway, so I'm not too worried if there's a little bit still showing. So there we go, I'm happy with that. Give that a press down. And then just to finish off, I just wanted some extra embellishments to finish off with. So I've actually got my little pot of goodies again. Just pop the top on there because it's getting quite warm in here at the minute. So I've cut my little sentiment just for you with a little stitched banner there, and I've just got that ready stamped in some black ink, and I've gone round all the edges. I forgot to mention that earlier. All my papers, I went round the edges with my vintage photo ink. You know how much I love inking the edges of everything, and I've done the same with the sentiment there as well. And then I took a little foliage die, and this again is an old one. I just went through my stash to see what I'd got, and this is one from a Vintage Lace Sarah Signature Collection by Crafter's Companion. I've used this one here, and I've just cut in that same cardstock again a little piece, and I've trimmed this out because I didn't want the whole length of it, so that's going to be part of my embellishment. I've got a nice little flower in a coordinating pink and a little, excuse me, a little butterfly. Oh, the old hay fever's kicking in today. The minute the sun comes out, I'm done for. So all I'm going to do is arrange these now on here just to create a little cluster. I'm going to pop this one in the back, and I want a tiny piece of double-sided tape. Just going to grab a little bit off my roll there so that the piece that goes over the acetate has actually got the same height as the cardstock. So I'm just going to pop that on that back half, and then the front half is going to go over the edge of the pattern papers where it's built up. So we'll pop that one in first. Oh, I have a very tickly nose and throat this morning. I do apologise. And this one's going to go over the window and then out towards the edge of the design, like so. And then I'm going to put the little branch, and I just want some glue on the bottom of this. And again, I've got that quick grab glue. I'm just going to put it down this bottom side here and pop this along one edge like that. Get that to stick in place. And then I've got my flower, which I'm going to put over that to seal it, and just onto the edge of the sentiment there. And then I've just got a little tiny butterfly been cut with a die. I propped a couple of pearls in the centre, and I'm going to put that one just on the front here to offset my little cluster there. So just a little accent on that top piece there. Absolutely fine. I like that. That looks great. Okay, so that's my little milk carton. As always, on the original one, the only extra thing were the addition of some pearls. So the flower's slightly bigger from this one because they were all cut from the same die. I've just gone, I think I actually prefer the smaller one, if I'm honest. But I've just added some little pearls to match what I put in the centre of the flower, again, just to finish embellishing it. Entirely optional. It doesn't have to, everything doesn't have to be adorned with pearls. It does in my world, but obviously not if it's not your thing. And that's my little project for today. Now, I did say I would show you the pieces that we'd cut out of the front here. On my original one here, thought they would make, if you wanted it, a great little extra piece as a tag. So I've used the piece that came out of the centre of the frame, which was the pearlescent cardstock, and the piece that came out of the pattern paper. Just pop them together, punched a hole with a little eyelet in there, added a little bit more detail to match here, and you could pop this if you wanted to. You know, you could tie this on with the bow. You could use it to secure. You could actually tie the whole thing up with this and have this hanging, probably pop a little foam square underneath it. You could actually use this as your embellishment if you didn't want to use the flower. You know, maybe just have it over to one side. So I just thought it made a nice little extra embellishment, and using up the scraps that we'd cut out of that aperture nicely. So I didn't use the pink piece. I mean, you could actually have all three of them layered together if you wish. But I just thought it was a nice, neat way of using some of those scraps up if you wanted to add a little gift tag to it as well. And then you could write a nice little message on the back there to the recipient. So yeah, just a way of using it up. So I hope you've enjoyed that today. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done already. It is flying, and that is all courtesy to you guys, which I'm eternally grateful for. If you enjoyed the process video today, give it a thumbs up for me. It does help with the channel. And if you want to have a go at making this, if you want to share, I do have a Facebook page also at JB Crafts where a lot of you are uploading, you know, things that you've done so that you can share with the rest of the community there. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll be back very, very soon with another tutorial. So bye bye for now.